The Xiaomi 14 and the Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus are the current $1,000 flagship phones from the two biggest Android OEMs in the world. You can find the Chinese version of the Xiaomi 14 for much cheaper, but the price of the global version is basically right up there with the Galaxy, so this is a very fitting comparison for most of you watching. I've covered both phones pretty extensively on this channel, but a lot of the comments still seem a bit confused which one to go for, so I wanted to make this final comparison video. Before we get to all the wins and losses, I would really appreciate it if you guys could subscribe to the channel. It really does support me and helps make these videos happen. Even though the S24 Plus is much more comfortable to hold compared to the S24 Ultra thanks to the rounded corners, it's still a big phone for big phone people. The Xiaomi 14 isn't a small phone, but it's much more comfortable to hold, especially for one-handed use, because it's fairly narrow and not as wide as the S24 Plus. It also helps that the Xiaomi 14 has a slight rounded back close to the edges, and the flat edges aren't as squared off as the flat edges on the S24 Plus. Both phones are built really well using glass and aluminum, and they also weigh about the same. I will say that the Xiaomi 14 does feel denser and the haptics do feel noticeably better, making it feel a bit more premium than the S24 Plus. One thing about the Xiaomi 14 though is that there's a lot of reports of the camera glass fogging up in low temperature climates. I personally never had this issue myself here in Seoul, South Korea, even when the weather dropped all the way down to negative 15 degrees Celsius, but definitely something to keep in mind considering how many reports there are about this issue. With all that said though, I overall do prefer the design and hardware of the Xiaomi 14 compared to the Galaxy S24 Plus. It's much more comfortable to hold, slightly more premium, and the design looks a bit more interesting to me. Both phones have really nice LTPO OLED displays with the same 1Hz to 120Hz variable refresh rates. But like I mentioned, the S24 Plus is a big phone with a big 6.7-inch display compared to the Xiaomi's more compact 6.3-inch display. Even with a bigger display though, the S24 Plus has a slightly higher pixel density. I don't have a big preference here because some people want smaller displays and some want bigger displays. But I will say that the 0.4-inch difference actually is a big difference for watching full screen videos. It may not look like it on camera, but you can feel it in person. Xiaomi does win in brightness though, getting a peak brightness of 3000 nits compared to the Galaxy's 2600 nits. Now even 2600 nits is super high and both have had no issues in sunlight with very quick and reliable auto brightness. At their default settings, the Galaxy S24 Plus is in vivid mode and the Xiaomi 14 is in original color pro mode. So the Galaxy is more vivid with slightly bolder color tuning, while the Xiaomi 14 goes for more of a natural look that's not too muted either. Both give you the option to choose your preference, vivid or not, so this is really up to your preference. Either way, both are some of the best displays on phones right now, and I don't think there's a clear winner here. The only clear win is the Galaxy's ultrasonic fingerprint sensor versus the Xiaomi's optical one. The optical sensor on the Xiaomi is almost as fast as the ultrasonic, but not as accurate. The Galaxy's fingerprint sensor has been way more reliable for all conditions because it doesn't need to shine a bright light on your finger to get a correct reading. In other words, the S24 Plus doesn't need to blind you at night like how the Xiaomi does, which is a big win in my opinion. Both phones have dual stereo speakers using the earpiece and a single bottom firing grill. Both are pretty excellent speakers that get really loud, but I will say that the S24 Plus does have a slightly higher level of clarity, which makes it just a little bit more enjoyable to listen to. Both phones have triple lens camera systems, but the Xiaomi 14 definitely has an advantage in hardware with a slightly larger main sensor size and a better telephoto lens. Go check out my full camera comparison video for more details, but to summarize, while both phones capture really clean and vibrant images that I really like, Xiaomi does seem to capture a little bit more detail most of the time. The S24 Plus actually keeps up really well, and it's hard to tell the differences at 1x to 1.5x, but at 2x crop or 3x optical, you can start to tell. And it's the reason why it's easier and more fun to take more dynamic photos using the Xiaomi. They also have some noticeable stylistic differences too. Samsung's post-processing doesn't over-sharpen photos as much anymore, but Xiaomi definitely leans more towards the even softer side. Smoother details and less ingrained for a slightly cleaner photo. The S24 Plus photos are also very clean, especially when compared to iPhone photos these days, but they still look a bit more processed compared to Xiaomi. In general, the Galaxy adds more vibrance and highlights to the photos, while the Xiaomi's Leica Vibrant filter saturates the colors a little more. Sometimes the post-processing does a little too much on the Samsung, sometimes totally blowing out the photo, so I did prefer the Xiaomi's color reproduction at most times. With slightly higher contrast, better dynamic range, and a more natural depth of field on the Xiaomi's photos seem stylistically more photographic, while the Galaxy is going for more of a balanced, wide focus route that's not too bland either. But in low light conditions, the Galaxy seems to start struggling a bit while the Xiaomi keeps on performing. Xiaomi captures the colors a lot more accurately, capturing the mood a lot better. When the lighting got tougher, I noticed the Galaxy start to get less bold about the colors and the photos start to look much more washed out and muted. The Galaxy also seemed to struggle with focus with less daylight helping it out. Both phones still do a really good job capturing these night scenes, but the Xiaomi is just better at it at most times. But for selfies, I definitely prefer the Galaxy's front-facing camera. Both phone cameras are flattering and pretty good with skin tones, but the Samsung just takes much more dynamic selfies that don't look like too many details are being compromised. Realistic while still looking good, which is the best combo. For video recording, the Xiaomi 14 and the S24 Plus have very similar color reproduction, so the videos mostly look the same. But I will say that Xiaomi's video quality looks slightly cleaner most of the time in daylight and in low light. The Galaxy goes back to its over-sharpening ways here, so the video looks a little grainier and not as clean as the Xiaomi's softer processing. Stabilization is also a bit smoother most of the time on Xiaomi, but for 3x optical when walking, I did notice the Galaxy doing a better job. On the flip side, just like the photos, I did prefer selfie videos on the Galaxy. There's much better dynamic range on the Galaxy, while the Xiaomi is often overexposing my face. I do like the Xiaomi 14's wider angle, but I overall do prefer the Samsung selfie video quality. Okay, moving on to the software, which is basically Xiaomi's HyperOS 1.0 versus Samsung's One UI 6.1. I will say that HyperOS looks more visually pleasing than One UI. There's nicer animations and everything you do in the UI, the navigation gestures look a lot less wonky compared to One UI, and the default lock screen customization options look much more dynamic compared to Samsung's. HyperOS also feels snappier with quicker tuned animations and transitions. One UI isn't slow by any means, but HyperOS seems to have tuned the animations a little faster. With all that said though, the HyperOS is new, so it has a lot of bugs, and the fast performance has a lot of inconsistencies. I experienced more occasional random freezes or stutters on HyperOS. The software also kills background apps way too fast, which actually messes with getting important notifications for my main apps. Xiaomi also made a lot of weird little decisions here, including the fact that you can only swipe away notifications in one direction because the other way takes you to the control panel. There's no extra dim mode available by default, and no on-screen time information in the battery settings. On top of that, One UI just offers so much more in utility. There's all those new Galaxy AI features to help with call and text translation, including the all-new circle to search, much more multitasking options with a much more dynamic side panel, multitasking gestures, and even more options available through Good Lock and other experimental features through the Galaxy Store. There's Samsung DeX to give you a desktop environment for your phone, so you can access your phone's apps, photos, and files on an external monitor. And finally, you get modes and routines, which lets you truly automate your phone. With this, my Wi-Fi automatically turns off when I leave home, my Do Not Disturb turns on when I arrive at work, and the extra dim mode turns off when I'm about to wake up. These routines really make my life easier, and it's one of the reasons it's really hard for me to use a phone not running One UI. Another win for Samsung here is software support. Samsung is promising 7 years of OS and security updates for the Galaxy S24 series, while Xiaomi promises 4 years of OS updates and 5 years of security updates for the Xiaomi 14. So yeah, with all these things in mind, HyperOS does look nicer, but One UI is much more convenient and useful for me. Moving on to performance, of course, these phones have flagship specs all around. These phones both come with 12 gigs of RAM and a minimum 256 gigs of storage. The big difference here is the SoC, which is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 on the Xiaomi 14 and the Exynos 2400 on the Galaxy S24 Plus. As you can expect for $1,000 phones, these phones have no problem with the day-to-day social media and browsing. Even when multitasking and recording 4K video all day, both these phones never slowed down and the thermal management was great. They both heated up pretty bad in the first 2 weeks of using them, but after that point, both learned my usage patterns and thermals were no issue for daily use. But where we do see some differences is in peak performance, with the Xiaomi 14 being a better performer with video editing and demanding games like Genshin Impact. To be fair, the difference is only really noticeable in the export times. When cutting, applying effects, and actually editing the videos, you really can't tell the difference. Also, unless you're a hardcore mobile gamer, it is hard to notice the difference in gaming performance, especially when both phones are pushing a good 55 to 60 FPS with high settings on Genshin Impact. All in all, the Xiaomi 14 does have the better peak performance, but both perform really well. I really don't have any complaints, and I think 99.5% of people will also be very satisfied with the performance on both these phones. For their size, both phones come with pretty big batteries inside. The Xiaomi 14 has a 4600 mAh battery and the Galaxy S24 Plus has a 4900 mAh battery. Both phones struggled with getting through a full day during their first 2 weeks, but after optimizing for my usage patterns, both phones got me through full days no matter what kind of day, chill weekdays, and or busy weekends. Like I always say, screen on time is really not a great metric since it really depends on your specific usage patterns. But for my usage, I'm getting about the same battery life between these two phones, about 5 to 6 hours of screen on time of pretty heavy use, which is actually great for me. I do see the S24 Plus giving me a tiny bit more battery life, but it's really not a noticeable difference. The huge difference is the charging speeds and the charger itself. While the S24 Plus can get up to 45 watts of charging and the power adapter is not included in the box, the Xiaomi 14 can get up to double that at 90 watts watts, and the charger is included in the box. The actual charging times are pretty crazy for the Xiaomi 14. You can get from 0 to 100% in less than 40 minutes, which always blows my mind. With a 45 watt charger, the S24 Plus can get from 0 to 100% in just under an hour, which isn't bad, but a 20 to 25 minute difference is a pretty big difference if you're really in a rush. So even though there's really no difference in battery life, the super fast charging on the Xiaomi 14 gives it the edge over the S24 Plus. Okay, so putting everything together, the Xiaomi 14 and the Galaxy S24 Plus are both really good high-end phones with some strong wins over the other. To my eyes, the Xiaomi 14 has some noticeable wins with a more dynamic camera system and much faster charging times with the charger included in the box. But One UI on the S24 Plus provides a more polished software experience with much more utility and customization, and you get 3 more years of software support. Honestly, I enjoyed using both these phones for their own strengths, and I wish I could just combine these two phones because all these things are important to me. Objectively, Xiaomi wins in more categories here, and I think many people will be happy with it. But if I personally had to make a choice at around the same price of $1,000, I'm going to go with the Galaxy S24 Plus for my own personal use cases. Even though the Xiaomi is easier to hold, I do prefer the bigger display on the S24 Plus. I'm also more satisfied with the S24's software experience, and all the automation and customization features on One UI have become super essential to my daily life. That said, I really do miss using the camera and the super quick charging on the Xiaomi 14. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments which phone you think won this comparison, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys on the next video.